The Cubs found a way to win a ball game Sunday, but it was another disappointing weekend of baseball for the Northsiders.
You are Locked On Cubs, your daily Chicago Cubs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Cubs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Alongside Sam Olber, I'm Matt Cozy. Sam and I are lifelong fans, taking our passion into discussion with you on all things Cubs. Thank you for being part of the show and making us your first listen today. And the best way you can help us grow the show is to listen every day, like the video, and comment anything below. Today's episode, as we kick off another week, is presented by FanDuel, our great partners over there. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started. Cubs take one of 4 games from the Reds over the weekend and are now 32-34 on the season. After beginning the 2024 campaign at 17-9, they are 15-25 since April 27, 6.5 games out of first in the NL Central, and only percentage points from last place in the division. This current stretch resembles the worst stretch from 2023 when those Cubs went from 12-7 to 26-36. Sam, we're going to recap the Red Series specifically at all different times of this episode. Also, some more IL gymnastics with Nico Hoerner. Let's get your current position on our Cubs and more as we kick off another week.
Yeah, so I got a lot of good nuggets for this Monday. I think people will appreciate this show. I feel good about what I'm about to bring to the table. But I'd like to start. I'd like to start with the micro. I'd like to start with this weekend specifically, and then I got some general thoughts as we head into Tampa to play a game in front of about 97 people. I'll start by saying this. So let's get to the weekend. So we covered the Thursday game for Friday's episode. Disappointing ball game. Right. I thought Friday night was a really good summary of why this team is struggling. I thought Justin Steele. I'm going to mix in some positives because there were this weekend. Justin Steele was absolutely fantastic on Friday. If he had a high school varsity level defensive catcher, he would have had 7 innings, 1 earned baseball. But very sloppy from Michael Busch, messing up a pickoff play with De La Cruz, and then a drop third strike that really didn't even hit the ground. It just didn't go through. It went right through Amaya's mitt, leads to 2 runs. The Cubs on Friday and Saturday continued what I would label a borderline historic stretch of ineptitude against left-handed pitching. It has been, I don't think people quite realize how bad it's been. Yes, they face some good lefties, but they can't get it done. The Lodolo effort, he's a pretty good pitcher. I was fine with that. That felt like it was going to be a 2-1, 3-2 affair. And when you make 2 gigantic mistakes on defense, you're usually not going to win a 1-run game. On Saturday, it was a bit different. They should have done more with Abbott. Late in that game, Dansby Swanson, who was another major positive from this weekend, he started to use the middle of the field. He started to use right center field, which he hadn't been doing all season. Got a huge hit in the 9th inning on a hit and run with Cody Bellinger. I'm going to say that one more time because we never do it. A hit and run with Cody Bellinger on first and second. So it was runners on the corners, 1 out. We couldn't bring the run in. Came up short again. That was one of those days where the offense should have scored more runs. The Cubs played 4 games at the Great American Ballpark this weekend. In my opinion, the second best hitters park in baseball. They did not hit 5 runs one time over the 4 games. Unacceptable. I thought Patrick Wisdom leading off Friday and Saturday. First of all, I thought it was a really, it was injury related. Of course, we'll talk about Hoerner and then Suzuki as well. But you can't have your leadoff hitter who hits the most, by the way. And remember, Craig Counsell said before he got in here, we want to have our best hitters hit the most. Well, if Patrick Wisdom's your best hitter, I'd like to take a one-way ticket back to apathy and not listen to this anymore. No. I understand it's a lefty matchup thing, but once a righty comes in, and then to your point, Matt, that you said off the air, they're playing with 11 guys on Saturday, that you got to think, do we really want them to hit in that situation?
Right.
0 for 9, 7 Ks from the leadoff spot for Patrick Wisdom in a 2-game stretch, both 1-run defeats. That's hard to stomach. Suzuki on Saturday thought Counsell insinuated that he might be available to pinch hit off the bench. He wasn't, and then started and looked really good on Sunday. You really thought maybe if he could get in late instead of PCA, instead of Wisdom, instead of Talkman left on left with the game on the line, maybe it's a different result. This weekend was just every issue kind of combined. A little bit of lack of urgency, a little bit of a lot of lack of offense, some bad bullpen work on Thursday night, bad defense and sloppiness, and it led to the Cubs losing 3 out of 4, the third straight 4-game series. They've lost 3 out of 4 to an NL Central opponent. It was Pittsburgh at Wrigley, Milwaukee over at American Family, whatever, and then Cincinnati at Great American Ballpark. After today's win, 8-15 against the Central, I pass it back to you before I talk about some generals.
Yeah, Steele, Brown, and Imanaga all pitched well. Brown made the same breaking ball mistake to TJ Friedel, but his outing was otherwise pretty solid. Steele was the benefactor, I'm using that word sarcastically, of more bad defense, as you mentioned. And I thought Imanaga did make nice pitches in crucial moments, ended up with 1 walk, 7 Ks, a 2-run ball, 6 2/3 for him. Dansby Swanson, 6 of his last 12 on the week. He hit 391, 9 for 23. The Wisdom 0 for 9 from the leadoff, 1 for 11 on the week. This was somebody that I thought maybe could play a little more third base moving forward, especially with the Horner injury, but I'm not even going to go there because he even had a couple bad throws over the weekend as well, in addition to just looking lost at the plate. I'm at a point with this team where we're getting into the Groundhog Day universe. It's like the same game we're watching every time for now 40 games. They're 15 for their last 40. And they got off to such a nice start, and it's Groundhog Day each time. And to go 15-25 after that great start, it is abysmal. And the worst stretch from last year, Sam, was 14-29. So this is not far off. They have to take care of business in June. We've talked about that. They've had the same issues we've talked about and well documented. And again, for future shows, we'll talk about, hey, here's their June schedule. You're only playing okay or worse teams, but are the Cubs okay or a worse team? And so it's the same things that are popping up. And more this weekend, Sam, I really just believe that maybe we were sold a bill of goods. Hey,
well, you weren't. You had this as an 82-win club. I was. I had this as an 87 club. I was sold. I might have been played.
I caved into peer pressure, I think, on the opening day episode and took the over. But I was sketchy on it, as you point out. But here's your new shiny manager, Craig Counsell, one of the best in the business. But the roster is nearly the same, with the core players literally all the same.
Yeah.
They make 3 upgrades in Imanaga, Neris, and Bush, but the core of the team, Happ, Suzuki, Swanson, Horner, Morel, and Bellinger, all well-rounded, but not even close to being stars.
I'm coming off a curl screen, and I just want you to give me a bounce pass.
Jed Hoyer made that decision, but you have all these great players. That's only in theory, especially Suzuki. And I know you're going to get to that more as well. But right now, I'm just like, were we sold a bill of goods, number one? And number 2, can they get out of it?
I'm not going to go with the curl. I'm going to flare. I'm going to flare to the corner on this.
Okay.
All right. So let's do a little bit of a general state of the union with the ball club right now. Right now, it feels like this.
Yeah, what? I wonder.
I'm going to skip the bullpen stuff because I think that's a problem that's just going to be a problem unless they get healthy soon. I mean, it was really sharp on Sunday, but it was their best guys. It was Leiter to Neris. It's after those 2 guys, it's really a hefty drop off. And I just think that's going to be an issue with no Almonte, no Merriweather. I'm strictly going to talk position players right now.
Okay.
This was the path for success for the Cubs in 2024. let's get very similar production from what we got last year, because overall, this was a good offense last year. It wasn't situationally good, but it was sixth in all of baseball in runs, Matthew.
Yeah.
They scored runs, and they thought if we could just get the same production as last year, and then here's the
Okay.
and we get somebody on this team internally to go to another level. Basically, Cody Bellinger of July and August of last year.
Mhm.
Now we're really cooking with some gas. And I believe that this team didn't need both those things to happen to be a playoff team. And clearly they don't, because they're still like a game out of a playoff spot. But they needed one of these two things to happen. They needed their supporting cast members, because it's a team of Steve Kerrs, right? It's a
Yeah,
team,
it is.
It's a team of role players that
Role
doesn't have Scottie Pippen or Michael Jordan. However, the role players aren't playing like role players either. Everybody is playing under. So like Suzuki's probably the closest. His OPS just got over 800 this year. But Hap's been below. Swanson's been below. Bellinger's been below. Morel's been below. I would argue Nico Horner's been significantly below expectations offensively.
Definitely.
So they're not even getting – everyone's like, oh, it's just a bunch of supporting cast members. They're not even hitting like good supporting cast members. They're hitting like mediocre players. So the first step to rectifying this is to get the supporting cast core guys to actually hitting like nice players. That probably will be enough to get them in this weak National League. But to actually compete and to actually have real ideas of winning a national championship, winning a World Series, Corey Seager's not walking through that door, the Texas Rangers. Jose Altuve, Yordan Alvarez, go all the way back to Juan Soto, Freddie Freeman. They don't have a true backbone superstar, which we knew going in. I think they felt that maybe internally Suzuki would probably rise to that. It hasn't happened quite yet. That's probably why I'm the hardest on him out of most people, even though he's still having what you would consider a fine offensive campaign. But the first step in rectifying this situation and getting back to being a good team is Swanson, Bellinger, Hap, Morel, hitting like good players, which we showed signs of. Because I say Steve Kerr, that's not an insult. John Paxson, that's not an insult. Ron Harper, Tony Kukoc, those guys, you need those guys to win, but they're not even at that level yet. They need to be good players, and then ultimately to take that step that we all want them to take, they need one great one, if that makes sense.
Let's keep this rolling right after this. Today's episode is brought to you by Supply House. Get supplies from the site that's made for the skilled trade, supplyhouse.com. Supply House is the reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands and get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. Do you need help with an order? Well, you can get expert support and industry-leading service from the friendliest folks in the business and talk to a real person every time. Pros in the skilled trades can get a competitive edge by joining Supply House's Trade Master program. Every Trade Master gets access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Join the thousands of trade pros already benefiting from their free membership at supplyhouse.com and order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from anywhere with just a few clicks. That's supplyhouse.com.
This episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. It's winner take all time in the NBA, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. Matt, Saturday night, I used FanDuel to play a couple of UFC bouts, as you would call them. And I was successful. And as we finish up recording here, Game 2, NBA Finals, I know you're really excited about this. Celtics up 1-0 and are pretty heavy 6.5 point favorites according to FanDuel at home. Hopefully that'll be a competitive basketball game because I'd like to kick back, relax, and enjoy that tonight. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's number one sportsbook.
The Cubs play the Rays at 5:50 kind of an odd start time, p.m. Central Tuesday. And you can hear every pitch of the Cubs hometown broadcast on SiriusXM by searching Cubs on the SXM app. All right, we continue our discussion. These Monday episodes are really a catch-all. There's certainly plenty of things to talk about, and we're talking about those 6 core players in Happ, Suzuki, Swanson, Horner, Morel, and Bellinger being well-rounded, being role guys, not even close to stars, but they're not even hitting
Like
at their
guys.
role
Yeah.
spot. And Sam, Suzuki
outside of Suzuki, I would say 801, 802 OPS. That's at least that's good enough if we're not talking about him being a star.
well, and at this point, I think it's fair to say the Cubs expected him to be a dude.
Yeah.
And he hasn't been his whole Cubs career. Occasionally, he will flash a star stretch like he did for the last 6 weeks of last year.
Yeah.
But his availability is limited. That was an example again this weekend. And I think he clearly gets in his head too much.
100%. 100%. I think with him, I think he was the guy that was the best candidate to take a leap to stardom, and he hasn't done that. But I also still think offensively, he's still far good enough to be a supporting cast member, but there's nobody to support. Because I tweeted this out the other day. It's kind of wild.
Right.
I tweeted out today. It feels like he really has had a down year again, and his OPS is still far and away leading the team.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's got an 8+ OPS. He doesn't have enough at bats to qualify as the team leader, because to your point. But I think Suzuki is a guy that he will have flashes where he carries your club. But ultimately, he's a perfect guy to have if behind him you had a Juan Soto. Behind him, you had an Aaron Judge. Behind him, an Ohtani. Behind him, an Alvarez. Behind him, a Jose Ramirez. People don't
even
talk about
like a Kyle Tucker.
Yeah, any of those guys, because then pressure's off. And that's when he really started to flourish last year, when Bellinger played that role for the Cubs for a while.
Good point.
So that's that. I think that level of point, I think I've made just in terms of everybody. It just feels like,
yeah, absolutely.
Outside of Suzuki, like, and again, Suzuki, like even Bellinger, he's hitting like a nice role player at the end of the day, 750, 760 OPS. But when other guys are struggling, like Morel, like Nico, like Dansby until this weekend, like Ian, it doesn't do enough, because somebody's got to say, hey, fellas, let's go, or those guys got to pick it up. The one thing I want to do to continue this conversation is say this: 2 things. Number one, the 9-game homestand coming up after the Tampa series will be the 9 games that I watch very, 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 very closely.
That's a lot.
If I don't see major improvement and major signs of life from this team, you will notice a very different tone with me on the show. If that's like a 4-5 stretch for them with like 3 1-run wins, I'm going to start to kind of be fading away to, hey, so like what I'm seeing from PCA next year. And, that 9-game homestand is going to be really critical for me. And then I just want to talk about the bunting, the base running, the council type of margin stuff, because, I am at the point now where I really feel like I miscalculated the value, maybe not of council, but of a major league manager. Because
it's big news.
And because look, yes, Craig Counsell isn't getting the offensive production that David Ross had the luxury of having. I get that. But this team also is playing far sloppier baseball than last year's team.
Especially on defense.
Yeah, which I don't know if Counsell could do a lot
defense
there,
and base running.
Yeah, I just thought Counsell, I guess, and when I think about it out loud, I guess it does sound kind of fairy tale-ish. I just thought Counsell would come in and there would be a different attitude about this team.
But didn't Jed say that though?
A different level of urgency, and maybe it's still coming, but it just like even today, for example, 1st and 2nd, nobody out. In the 7th with Swanson up 3, in the 9th with Morel up 2. Yeah. You're hitting the double plays. Are you that against bunting philosophically? It's I get it generally, but there's still specific times where the bunt works. I just thought it would be sharper. I thought it would make more sense to me. Maybe, and I don't know if that's as much I was wrong about Counsell, more so as I really probably feel like I was a couple steps too hard on Ross last year. And I think, and maybe the Cubs end up getting hot and win 88, 89 games and Counsell ultimately makes a difference and I come back. But right now it just feels like, we have a show. We have a lot of people that watch our show and we're very lucky for that.
Mhm.
And I think I probably influenced a lot of people to say, hey, this guy, David Ross is bad. And he doesn't have a job. Maybe he will. But David, if you're watching, which you probably aren't, but you never know.
Never know.
I think I was too hard on you last year. I really do.
Mm.
And I'm learning that the hard way right now.
Yeah, and the players they're not performing because that's a big question right now. Can they not only start producing, but start producing simultaneously? And guess what? They did get out of it last year. And I embraced and enjoyed that when they turned the corner.
Yep.
They went 33-14 from July 18 to September 6th. And I enjoyed it. And the big question right now is this: is there evidence to point to
Huge question.
them not only getting out of it, but being able to go on a big run like they did last summer?
And the answer to that right now, according to the metrics, is probably not. Last year, all we talked about on the show is, hey, this team's 8 games under, but they should be 500. They should be this. There were signs that they were a better team than what they were showing. This year, there hasn't been. This year, there hasn't been. But I'm hoping that there are signs that I'm starting to see. First of all, on the pitching side, Imanaga with a really nice bounce back Sunday to kind of normalize that stretch. I thought Justin Steele was excellent.
2 in a row.
Yeah, I thought Justin Steele was excellent against the Brewers and excellent in that second start. Not going to really be too hard on him when it was pouring rain at Wrigley. Dansby starting to use the whole field. Suzuki has been hitting the ball pretty well for a couple of weeks now.
Yeah.
I think defensively is where he's really hurt the Cubs lately. We've seen signs with that. So there's a little Hap as well. There's a little bit of life to where you could see, okay, maybe they get home, the weather's nice, and they start to all get hot. They rattle off because all it takes, and this is why baseball's so wild. Look at the Reds. I mean,
right.
All it takes is a 12 out of 15.
And the Cardinals 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, a 16 out of 20. And not only are you where the Cardinals Reds are right now, you're back to where you want to be. You're probably 2-3 games up on in a playoff spot. So you're just waiting. But at some point, you got to get hot. And it's just been such a long time since. I mean, we haven't won 3 in a row. So you would just like to see them find a way to go win a series in Tampa, come home and just stomp on St. Louis, stomp on the Mets, stomp on the Giants. I think it's Giants, then Mets. I apologize for that. But
and then back to Giants.
Yeah. Just get hot and get back to 6-7 over so that at least we know it's there. Because right now I think we all are like, is it there? We think it's there, but we don't have the evidence to see that it's there. Because even when they were 17-9, it was not dominant baseball.
Well, we actually asked that in an episode title. Will the offense keep it up? And the answer was no, by the way. If you compare the 2 worst stretches, right, 14-29 last year, 15-25 right now, which, by the way, is not exactly like a fun research product. But the offense a little bit worse during this stretch than last year.
Yep.
Pitching a little bit better.
Sure.
And defense and base running worse.
Yep.
So 3 out of the 4 you're worse. Pitching, you're better. But yeah, this really is the turnaround time, I think.
Matt, what was, you have the date on it. What was the last that Cubs Braves game where they won comfortably in Atlanta?
May 15.
Matt, it's almost been a full month since the Cubs have had
a full month
since the Cubs have had an easy win. And I thought Sunday was it. I was laying by the pool.
I know. Well, 3-0 after 1.
And 4-0 after 2.
Yeah.
I was laying by the pool. I was socializing.
Right.
I was talking to some neighbors. Hey, what do you watch? I'm watching this baseball team. I don't like to, hey, I got a podcast. I don't really do that. So I'm just talking. She goes,
right.
And we're talking and they could see me, I pumped the fist when Suzuki hit that double. And then Hap clears the bases. And I'm thinking, finally, it's going to be easy. And it wasn't easy at all.
It wasn't, although Hector Neris maybe his best inning of the year.
Yeah, he just threw a lot of fastballs. The Reds were sitting split, and he just kept going fastball after he made him maintenance the mound for 45 minutes.
Yeah, it was
Uh,
odd. Lighter was good too.
no, the bullpen was tremendous on Sunday. By bullpen, I mean the two guys that are halfway decent in the bullpen.
Right, the only two guys. Yeah.
And maybe Tyson Miller you could throw in there. By the way, Wisniewski was warming up again, so it seems like Wisniewski's still ahead of Tyson Miller on the righty totem pole, which I don't understand. But I would like, weird start time this week. Also, this weekend, I just want to promo this, see if anyone wants to help us out. Nick's bachelor party this weekend. We're gonna be in Wrigleyville Friday night. Saturday, if you want to meet up with us, if anyone owns like a nice place we could hang out at, let us know. We got a lot of guys. And it would be really nice.
We're going to the game Saturday.
We're going to the game Saturday, bleachers. We're going out Saturday night. We're going out Friday night. It's going to be a fun time unless this team gets beat down at Tropicana Ballpark. So hopefully they can get going.
Well, and I have visions of them in the dark doldrums of Tropicana Field because it's indoors, but it's dark.
It's like an attic. It's an attic.
Yeah, and I just have visions of them just hitting the ball over the field, just getting out of there with 2-3 wins.
Do you really?
And getting back, early morning Friday and seeing what you can do. So, but we'll preview that more and have trade talk for Tuesday's episode.
And of course, they will be getting back early Friday morning because they never get a getaway day when they have to play a Friday day game at home against the Cardinals. So
let's close out with Nico Hoerner discussion. Hasn't this happened once before? Is he going to go to the IL? Stay tuned. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Are you struggling to close deals? Well, selling is tougher than ever. And that's why I want to tell you about LinkedIn Sales Navigator, a sales intelligence platform that helps professionals effectively prospect and engage high-value customers, drive higher revenue, and increase sales performance, fueled by LinkedIn's 1 billion member platform. Wow. Sales Navigator gives you the most up-to-date first-party data, enabling you to unlock conversations with the people that matter. Right now, you can try LinkedIn Sales Navigator and get a 60-day free trial at linkedin.com/lockedon. That's linkedin.com/lockedon for a 60-day free trial. Let LinkedIn Sales Navigator help you sell like a superstar today. How? Just go to linkedin.com/lockedon to get started. Nico Hoerner does have a small fracture in his right hand after being hit by a pitch on Thursday. Hoerner did pinch run on Friday, but sat out completely both Saturday and Sunday. If the swelling is down and he's able to swing, then he will likely be in Tuesday's lineup. But if not, then an IL trip isn't out of the question, especially since they can backdate it to Saturday. Sam, my biggest thing right now is this already happened like 3 weeks ago with him.
my biggest thing is I'm going to take a different angle on this because you're
Turd and tuck.
Yeah.
Turd and tuck.
Yeah, it seems like the Cubs really aren't seeing the inside fastball well because they just dive into it. And when you dive into it, Contreras just does. That's what's causing them to get hit. Like a lot of people are like, hey, stop throwing inside. That's not the pitcher's fault. You're supposed to see that's a ball and remove yourself from the situation. Hoerner did that. Amaya did that. Madrigal did that. It's like they're just like guessing. It just kind of summarizes the offensive issues a little bit.
Right.
But yeah,
you can still take your base. You just got to turn your body.
Yeah, exactly. Bush did that. I thought Bush playing second was interesting. I was told when the Cubs got him, that was his best position at the minor league level.
That's right.
And that first was the next, and then third. So, I don't know. I mean, Nico, to be honest with you, I think, and this is on me, I really have piled on a lot with Happ, Swanson, Seiya. And I don't think Nico's been great, man, at all.
No, he's grouped in there.
He's
one of the core guys.
He's hitting about 255, and it's not really. It's just been unimpactful. I think the last time I checked it here, let me pull it up just because I don't like to guess on this show. I like to have facts because that's what we should do. I just want to check something to be factual because I always pride Nico Hoerner on his hitting with runners in scoring position.
Well, his defense has been down too.
And his defense has been, it just doesn't feel like it's been really good that year. So let's see here. Runners in scoring position. Nico Horner this year betting 205
Yeah,
with
that's
runners in
striking.
and to me, that's his role on this team is to get big hits with guys on. That number should be have a 3 in front of it, and it has a 2, and it's 205. So, I think Nico Horner is one of those guys that's really hasn't played up to his caliber. Where do I expect Nico Horner to be? Between 270 and 290, but a loud 270, loud 290, meaning he's getting the big hits for this team. This is a
Yeah.
quiet, unimpactful 255. Not a lot of extra base hits, not a lot of steals. He, along with many others, needs to be better when he comes back. Matt, will they IL him or not? I'll leave that up to you. It's above my pay grade.
Yeah, I know Monday again will be a big day for that. You have Bush starting at second on Sunday. Bodie could be an option there. Morel, if you need him to be. And then you got 2 guys in the minors, Luis Vasquez at AAA and Matt Shaw at AA.
Yeah, I don't think Matt
So
Shaw.
there's options if you go way down the chart, but hopefully Horner, the swelling goes down. He's able to be back in there on Tuesday. All right, big time series recap right there.
That was a
State
good
of the
show. I enjoyed
Cubs.
that. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, it was good, and we enjoy being here despite independent of Cubs performance.
Tuesday, Cubs Rays preview, and we finally are going to dip
Trades.
our toe in the trade market, which is going to give me very poor flashbacks of the off season, where every day I would wake up excited and every night I'd go to bed sleepy and bored.
Thank you so much for checking out this edition of Locked On Cubs. You give us 20 to 30 minutes. We'll give you all things Cubs with a laugh or two along the way. We got 3 things happening right now that are pretty much going to happen within like 2-3 days of each other. 500th episode, 1 million listens/views for 2024, and 10,000 subs on YouTube. All 3 of those are probably going to happen before the end of June. So pretty cool. We appreciate your support. And if you want more of us, consider supporting us even more by subscribing to our Unlocked podcast. The link to subscribe is in this episode description. Another week of shows coming up. He's Sam Olver. I'm Matt Cozy. This is Locked On Cubs.
Go Cubs.